The blood never lies, but memories? Memories deceive. New Boston was suffocating under its twin domes that filtered the Martian sunlight into a dull, clinical gray. Down in Sector 9, even that light barely reached. The air was thick with coolant vapor and the buzzing hum of maintenance drones, weaving between pipes and shadowed corridors like metallic insects. Dr. Riley Monroe stood over the hospital bed, arms crossed, jaw tight. Her dark hair was pulled into a taut ponytail, her eyes hidden behind neural vision lenses that mapped synaptic fluctuations in real time. The woman lying unconscious before her, Lisa Stone, age 32, no criminal record, employed at a hydro farm near the Equatorial District, should have woken up with her own memories. She hadn't. Her hippocampal patterning is unstable, Riley muttered to the neurotech beside her. Some of these pathways are mine. Literally mine. The tech blinked at the screen. Like, memories? Shared? Riley didn't answer. She stepped forward and leaned in, brushing Lisa's hair back. Electrodes hummed on the woman's temples, glowing faint blue. Riley closed her eyes. There it was again, the echo. A submerged whisper in Lisa's neural web. A beach on Earth Riley hadn't visited since she was 16. Her little sister, Jordan, laughing with sand in her hair. But Lisa had never been to Earth. She whispered under her breath, that memory doesn't belong to her. Or anyone but me. Lisa gasped awake. She jolted upright, wide-eyed, grabbing at her chest as if suffocating. Monitors screamed. Riley moved fast, catching her shoulders. Lisa, it's okay. You're safe. You're at a medical facility. But Lisa wasn't looking at her. She was crying. Whispering a name. Jordan, she didn't deserve to die. Riley froze. The words hit like a rifle round to the chest. No one outside classified memory hunter records knew how Jordan died. No one. Who told you that name? She demanded. Lisa blinked. I don't know. I remember, standing in the ruins. Holding her photo. It felt like my hands, my pain. But it wasn't. It wasn't mine. Riley stepped back, heart hammering. This wasn't a case of corrupted implants or memory leaks. This was a transfer. A partial overwrite. But how? Sector Command dispatched a response team within minutes. Lisa was sedated and isolated in a neurostasis pod. Riley's clearance gave her full access to the forensics. The brain scan was worse than she expected. Neural thread anomalies, quantum imprint overlap, markers that read like ghostly fingerprints hers. And then came the security footage. Timestamp, 17 hours prior. An alley near Lisa's apartment. Emergency responders found her collapsed there, but the footage revealed someone else, someone watching from the shadows. A man, tall, draped in a weather-stained coat, his movements oddly fluid. His skin. Blue. Not bruised or tattooed. A luminous, soft azure that shimmered faintly under artificial light. The man hadn't approached Lisa, hadn't touched her. But he was there before she collapsed. Ethan Kael, said Agent Vasquez, handing Riley the preliminary file. They stood outside the interrogation chamber, where the man was now cuffed to the table. That's his name. Vasquez gave a small shrug. What he told us. No ID in the system. No birth records. And get this, his genome matches only 41% with standard human DNA. No known species in our archives has that structure. Riley narrowed her eyes. What about his neural signature? Unreadable. Either he's blank, or encrypted. She glanced through the glass. Ethan sat calmly, his hands relaxed on the table. His face was angular but eerily symmetrical, with eyes that shifted hue in subtle waves, stormy gray to pale violet. Not threatening. Not defensive. Just watching. Riley entered the room. "Mr. Kael," she said coolly. He turned to her with slow precision. His voice was soft, cultured. "Dr. Monroe." Finally. She paused. "You know who I am." "Not exactly. But I know you don't trust easily. I know you dream of water. And you carry loss like a scar no surgery can reach." Riley stiffened. "You've been inside my mind." He shook his head. "No. But I've seen echoes. Impressions. The pain leaks." Her pulse quickened. This wasn't a con. His tone held no manipulation, no rehearsed lines. He spoke like someone mourning something he couldn't name. "Lisa Stone woke up with memories that belonged to me," Riley said. "How?" Ethan looked down. "Because something old and hungry is learning to wear your face." She didn't blink. "Start explaining." He met her eyes. And for the first time, Riley felt something ancient behind his gaze. Not malice. Not madness. Warning. "They don't want your mind, Dr. Monroe. They want your memories. Because memory is identity. And if they can rewrite that, they can become anyone." Riley clenched her fists. She had heard conspiracy theories. Neural parasites. Memory viruses. But this wasn't a theory. This was real. Tangible. And it had her name. Outside, sirens wailed. Another alert. Another case. Another mind unraveling. But inside Riley Monroe, something else had begun. A war not of weapons, but of memories. The interrogation chamber was colder than Riley remembered. Not just the temperature, though the recycled air from the Martian vents hissed with sterile precision, but something else. A quiet pressure. As if the walls themselves were waiting to hear what Ethan Kael might say. He sat with the same calm stillness as before, hands folded on the metal table, eyes fixed on her with unnerving patience. Riley walked in, neural pad in one hand, scanner in the other, boots tapping quietly against the composite floor. "Ethan," she said flatly. "Dr. Monroe," he replied, nodding once. "Thank you for coming back." She didn't sit. Instead, she activated her pad and let the biometric readouts flicker to life on the screen between them. "You said you remember things," Riley began, "but you don't know if they're real." Ethan's lips curved slightly, not quite a smile. More like, "I remember hundreds of lives. Hundreds of moments. Laughing, bleeding, losing. Some in languages I don't speak. Others in bodies that weren't mine." Riley frowned. "You're describing identity fragmentation. A rare result of trauma or deep neural imprint interference. But your scans don't show damage. They show encryption. Because the memories aren't broken," Ethan said. "They are borrowed. Or gifted. I don't know which." Riley crossed her arms. "Who gave them to you?" He hesitated, then spoke carefully. "I saw something once. A creature not with eyes, but with threads of light. Like living neurons, dancing through air. It touched someone. Only for a moment. But he changed. He started crying for his dead wife, except he'd never been married." She leaned in. "You're saying there's a species capable of memory transference. Not just transference. Infection." Invasion. It doesn't steal your body, it makes you believe you're someone else. Completely. And it does this through memory. Riley's blood chilled. The reports, the suicides, the anomalies in Lisa's brain scan, this wasn't just theory anymore. Why didn't you say this sooner? Would you have believed me? He asked softly. She didn't answer. Outside, Agent Vasquez watched through the glass, arms folded, jaw tight. The team had reviewed Ethan's DNA again, no known planetary or stellar registry. No interspecies treaties applied. Technically, Ethan Kael didn't exist. And yet, he sat there like he had been waiting for centuries. A quiet ping interrupted the tension. Riley's pad buzzed. Emergency alert. Location, Memorial Sector Medical Hub. She opened the report. Her face went pale. What is it? Ethan asked. Another victim, Riley said. But this time, it wasn't just a memory shift. By the time they reached the medical hub, the hallway was a war zone of containment suits and forensic drones. The walls were smeared with blood stark against the white ceramic. Riley pushed through the crowd with her clearance badge. Inside the trauma room, a young man lay on the floor, his body twisted in death, face frozen in a look of existential terror. The attending medic looked up, pale and shaken. He was screaming about a little girl in a burning room. Said she was calling him daddy. Said he remembered her dying, that he tried to save her. But he doesn't have a daughter. Riley knelt by the body. In the man's fingers, curled tightly, was a torn hospital ID, his own. And scrawled across the far wall, in jagged streaks of blood, was a single sentence. Whisperer is coming. Her breath caught. Behind her, Ethan stepped into the room silently. The medics turned, startled. No one had cleared him for entry. He remembered her because the Whisperer wanted him to, Ethan said quietly. That memory was seeded. Planted like a virus. What does it want? Riley asked. Ethan turned his violet eyes toward her. To become. To wear your stories like skin. To erase you by remembering you better than you ever did. She stared at the blood-stained wall. Her name had been whispered in the last chapter. Now this? Riley Monroe wasn't a skeptic anymore. She was a witness. And the war of memory had already begun. The descent into the deep gas extraction levels was slow, deliberate, and cold. Riley's boots clanged against the steel grates, echoing through the narrow shaft as the elevator hissed down, deeper into the Martian substrata. Ethan stood beside her, silent, his violet eyes scanning the darkened corners between flickering emergency lights. This is where the last signal was traced, Riley said, checking her neural pad. Sector D23. A burst of memory interference, deep wave noise, likely caused by cognitive destabilization. Ethan tilted his head. Like a thoughtquake. She gave him a sharp look. That's not a real term. It should be, he said softly. When the elevator doors groaned open, they were greeted by the stale scent of burnt metal and coolant. The corridor stretched out before them like a throat of rust and wires. The facility had been semi-abandoned, now running on minimal power. Drones hovered idle in docking stations. No staff. No noise. Until they heard it. A thud. Then another. Riley raised her pulse weapon. Ethan didn't flinch, but he stepped slightly ahead of her. They found the source near Substation 4. A man, wearing a hydrotech maintenance uniform, stood over a smashed control panel, breathing hard. His fingers bled from the force of his strikes. But he didn't seem to feel the pain. Sir, Riley called out. Step away. Identify yourself. The man turned. His face was slack. Empty. Then his lips curled into a smile that didn't belong. He lunged. Riley fired a pulse shot to the shoulder. It staggered him, but didn't stop him. He crashed into Ethan, swinging with brutal, mindless force. The two grappled, fists colliding, boots scraping on steel. Riley rushed in, drawing her shock baton, landing a blow to the man's ribs. He howled not in pain, but in laughter. You think you're real? The man shrieked, eyes gleaming with manic joy. You think your memories make you who you are? He slammed Riley into the wall. Her breath escaped in a sharp gasp. Pain flared in her ribs, something cracked. Ethan moved faster than she could process. He twisted the attacker's arm, slamming him to the ground with a force that echoed down the corridor. The man convulsed and stilled. Blood pooled from his nose. His eyes blinked rapidly. And then he whispered, "We are learning to forget you." He passed out. Riley leaned against the wall, clutching her side. Ethan crouched next to her. "You're bleeding," he said. "I noticed." Without asking, Ethan pressed his palm against her ribs. She tried to pull away, but something in his eyes stopped her. His touch was warm, grounded. And then, a flood. She saw herself, but not as she was. A child, running through the sand dunes of Earth. Her sister Jordan chasing her. The scent of rain on concrete. The sharp sting of loss the day she got the news. All of it rushing back. She gasped. Ethan pulled back, breathing heavily. "I wasn't trying to invade. It helps me see what's real." Riley stared at him, eyes wide. "You saw her. Jordan. She mattered to you. That makes her real." Riley tried to stand, wincing. Ethan helped her. They turned back to the unconscious attacker. A quick scan of his neural activity revealed strange patterns of overlapping memories, some corrupted, others implanted. The neural map glitched like a broken video feed. Riley frowned. This isn't just psychosis. This is structural invasion. Ethan moved closer. He waved his hand over the man's temple. "There's something in him. A node. Alive." She narrowed her eyes. "Show me." Ethan placed 2 fingers to the man's scalp. His own pupils dilated. A soft glow pulsed from under the skin, faint, like bioluminescence. Then he whispered. "It's not just inside him. It's growing." Riley watched in stunned silence as a tiny, semi-transparent organism slithered beneath the surface of the man's skull, like a nerve cluster made of liquid light. She activated her extraction tool. "Hold him." With a precise pulse, she drew out a droplet of fluid shimmering, neon blue. It twitched on the scanner. "Synthetic neurotransmitter compound," she murmured. "But it's replicating. Reacting to memory, it's feeding." Ethan's expression darkened. "This is how they are born. Not laid. Not cloned. But cultivated in minds." "Mnemovores," Riley said quietly. "These aren't invaders. They are evolutions. Our minds are their soil." The lights flickered overhead. Somewhere deeper in the shaft, something stirred. They moved fast, dragging the unconscious man to the surface elevator. Medical quarantine units took him from there, sedated and sealed in a stasis pod. Riley filed her report in silence, her mind racing. The Mnemovores weren't just parasites. They were grown from human emotion. And worse, they were learning. As she stepped outside the medbay, she found Ethan standing under the red Martian sky, looking up through the glass dome. "They don't just want to rewrite us," he said without turning. "They want to become the better versions of us." Riley exhaled slowly. "Then we stop them." He finally looked at her. And for the first time, she didn't see a stranger. She saw someone who had lost, too. Someone who remembered. The silence in the shuttle was unbearable. Saturn's rings shimmered beyond the viewport, casting fragmented light across Riley's clenched fists. She stared at her data pad, the decoded fragments from Olympus Station glowing like a warning. Lines of biological metadata. Neural lattice diagrams. And a name she hadn't expected to find in a DNA tag sequence, Ethan Kael. She took a deep breath, turned to him. "You were created." He didn't flinch. "Yes. By UIIA." A pause. "Then, not just them." They began the process. But it didn't end with them. Riley gripped the pad harder. Her voice dropped to a whisper. "You're not just a person. You're a construct." He looked at her, and something deep flickered in his eyes, something that wasn't entirely human, but wasn't entirely alien either. "I was designed," Ethan said softly, "to carry memory. Not just store it, but feel it. To be a bridge. A hybrid of human cognition and Mnemovore neurostructure. My consciousness was built from fragments: love, grief, pain, loyalty. Thousands of recorded echoes stitched together." She felt her chest tighten. "So you're a simulation?" He shook his head. "No. I'm the result of real emotion. Cultivated and grown. A living memory. A vessel of what humanity values most." Riley stood, pacing the narrow space. "They made you, to communicate with a whisperer? To translate us to it? And it to you?" She pressed her palm to the wall, struggling to breathe. He rose slowly. "Riley. Don't. You're afraid." "No," she snapped. "I'm confused. I thought I knew what you were. I trusted you. I felt something for you. But now, you think those feelings were programmed?" Silence stretched between them like a blade. Then Ethan stepped closer, his voice low, trembling. "Do you remember the first time you told me about Jordan? About how she died? You didn't say it out loud. But the memory, it screamed in you. And I heard it. Not because I was built to. But because I recognized it. Because I've felt loss. Real loss. Not synthetic." She turned to him. "How can you know pain if it didn't happen to you?" "Because pain doesn't need to belong to just one person," he said. "It echoes. Through time, through people. Through me. That's what I am. I am the echo of everything your species couldn't bear to forget." Her breath caught. "So what am I supposed to believe? That you love me because someone programmed you to feel what I feel?" His face softened. "I wasn't programmed to love you. I learned to. Because of you. Your anger. Your defiance. Your grief. Your hope." Tears welled in her eyes. "You don't get to be that perfect. I'm not. I'm incomplete. Broken, even. 1,000 memories. A single form. But what I feel now, what I feel when I look at UISNT in any file. It wasn't copied. It wasn't extracted. It happened. Here." He placed a hand on his chest. She looked at him for a long time. The man she had fought beside, trusted, feared, and now wanted to believe. The ship shuddered. A news signal blinked on the console, deep frequency, encrypted. An echo from the station. Riley wiped her eyes and stepped forward. Is it them? The whisperers. Ethan looked at the display, jaw clenched. It's a summons. They know I've awakened. Then we're not done. No, he agreed. We're only just beginning. She didn't reach for her weapon. Not this time. She reached for his hand. The jump to TRM Echo took less than an hour, but the weight of it stretched endlessly between Riley and Ethan. TRM Echo wasn't on any public star map. It floated silently in orbit around the dead moon of Enceladus, hidden within electromagnetic clouds and cloaked by outdated stealth tech. UIIA had long since buried its existence beneath classified layers. But the deep echo was still alive. As the shuttle approached, the station slowly revealed itself, a vast ring of dark metal and glass, open at the center like a lens gazing into the void. Tendrils of energy pulsed along its core, a living heartbeat of memories encoded in light. Ethan stood at the viewing port, his voice a murmur. They built this as a repository. A shared dream. Billions of memories streamed, stored, merged. They called it a library. But they were feeding it. Riley checked her weapon, though deep down, she knew bullets wouldn't help here. They docked without resistance. Inside, the station was wrong. Too quiet. No dust. No decay. Just sterile perfection. Holographic projections flickered in the air, moments, fragments. A woman giving birth. A boy learning to ride a bike. A soldier dying with a smile. The memories hung in still life, suspended like sacred artifacts. They are not illusions, Ethan said. They are echoes. Traces. The deeper they moved, the more surreal the station became. Hallways bent at impossible angles. Gravity felt inconsistent. Time itself seemed to blur. Then they reached the core chamber. It was vast, circular, with a sphere of shimmering white light suspended mid-air. Around it, tendrils of translucent memory thread waved slowly, reaching outward, connected to the walls, the floor, even the ceiling. The first whisper was waiting. She emerged from the sphere, a woman of light, her body composed of fractal patterns, her eyes infinite pools of shifting stars. Her voice came not from her mouth, but from everywhere at once. Riley Monroe. Welcome. Riley raised her weapon. Ethan stepped between them. She won't hurt you, he said. I don't trust that anymore, Riley muttered. The whisperer tilted her head. I understand. Loss often creates doubt. Pain sharpens fear. Let me show you what you miss. The room shimmered. Suddenly, Riley stood on Earth. Blue sky. The scent of ocean salt. Her childhood beach. And Jordan, her little sister, laughing, alive, running toward her. No, she whispered. Jordan hugged her. Spoke to her. I missed you, Ree. I never blamed you. Tears burned her eyes. Her legs trembled. This isn't real. The whisperer stood nearby, her glow softer now. It can be. You don't have to carry the pain anymore. Let me replace it with something beautiful. Riley fell to her knees. She wanted to stay. To believe. Just for a moment. Then her fingers brushed the chain around her neck. A small vial. Ashes. Jordan's. She clutched it tightly. Stood slowly. And faced the whisperer. Real memories hurt. They scar. They never fade completely. But they are mine. You can't have them. The illusion shattered. They were back in the core. The whisperer's glow dimmed. You are not ready. No, Riley said. I'm not yours. Suddenly, figures began forming around them. Shadows with faces, some familiar, some not. Echo avatars, constructs of memory, repurposed into defense. They attacked. Riley fired, but the shots phased through. These weren't physical enemies. Ethan moved in front of her. His body pulsed with light as the echoes swarmed him. They clawed at his mind, flooding him with fractured memories, some not his own. He screamed. Riley tried to pull him back, but the memory threads wrapped around his arms, embedding themselves in his skin. He convulsed, falling to one knee. Let him go, she shouted. The whisperer didn't respond. Her eyes glowed brighter. Ethan's body sparked like bleeding from his fingertips. He focused, pressed his hand to his chest, grounding himself. The echoes faltered. One by one, they froze, then vanished into motes of light. He collapsed. Riley caught him. His breathing was shallow. Skin flickering between human and Mnemovore texture. She held him tight. The whisperer hovered above them. He was never meant to endure this. He is memory. You brought him here. He chose to come, Riley said, teeth clenched. And I'm choosing to leave with him. The whisperer didn't stop her. But as they limped back toward the docking bay, her voice echoed in Riley's mind. You are not the last. The deeper echoes have begun to wake. They left the station behind, the pulse of the deep echo fading into the void. But Riley knew this wasn't over. The war had a face now. And it remembered hers. The shuttle hovered in orbit above TRM Echo, silent as a ghost. Riley stood at the interface panel, her fingers hovering just above the final command prompt. The screen glowed with data pulses that stretched deep into the station's core, into the very neural threads of the deep echo. It was alive. Not sentient in the way they understood, but vast. Relentless. This is the only way, she asked, voice barely above a whisper. Ethan stood beside her, calm. If we destroy it from the outside, it'll fragment. Rebuild elsewhere. Hide in people. In places. But if we collapse it from within, it ends. All of it. Riley swallowed. Her chest ached. Not just from fear, but from the weight of what she was about to lose. Ethan looked at her, expression soft. I'm the key, Riley. I was built to interface. I can find the root thread, anchor it, and then trigger the overload. And when that happens, I won't exist anymore. Not like this. Not as me. She turned to him fully now. The lighting from the panel bathed his face in a pale blue, highlighting the trace circuits beneath his skin, glowing faintly like constellations. You're not just code, she said. You're more than what they built. He smiled gently. Because of you? Riley's breath caught in her throat. Her eyes burned. She stepped closer, reached up, and touched his cheek. His skin was warm. Real. And she knew, without doubt, that everything she had felt was real, too. She leaned in and kissed him slow, aching, desperate. Not to stop time, but to mark it. When she pulled back, her voice trembled. If I forget you, promise you'll still remember me? Ethan's eyes shimmered. I don't need memories. You've already changed my code. She held onto his hand for one more heartbeat. Then let go. They descended into the core together. TRM Echo's central chamber pulsed with threads of light, thousands of memory conduits, flickering with echoes of millions of lives. It was beautiful. Terrifying. Ethan stepped into the platform that hovered above the central node. The interface reacted to his presence instantly, casting rings of data light that scanned his form. "Initializing core fusion protocol," said a voice from the chamber, synthetic and emotionless. Riley watched as Ethan lifted his arms. The threads of memory began connecting to him, sliding into his skin like veins of starlight. He winced. "You okay?" she asked. He nodded. "It's a lot." The light intensified. Ethan's form began to glow. The data threads tightened, pulling him toward the deep echo's nucleus. Then he turned to look at her one last time. "Tell them," he said. "Tell the world it wasn't a machine that saved them. It was memory. It was love." Riley wanted to run to him, to pull him back. But she knew this was his choice. A surge of energy cracked through the chamber. Ethan screamed, but not in pain. In defiance. He flung his arms wide. "Fusion initiated," the voice confirmed. Ethan's body began to break apart particle by particle, stream by stream, dispersing into the core like light through water. Riley stepped back, shielding her eyes. Then a flash. White. Total. Consuming. When she woke, the chamber was quiet. The lights had dimmed. The memory threads were gone. The deep echo was no more. The station itself began to crumble, its purpose fulfilled, its heart extinguished. Riley stumbled to her feet. She called for Ethan. Silence. Only her own heartbeat, loud and lonely. She climbed back to the shuttle, barely making it into the pilot's seat before the escape sequence triggered. As the vessel pulled away, she looked back at the station. A single burst of blue light pulsed from the core one last time. Like a goodbye. Later, in a quiet room on Mars, Riley opened a secured file Ethan had left for her. Just a simple message. "You once told me memory makes us human. I think, maybe love does too. I loved you, Riley. And I always will." She pressed the locket around her neck, Jordan's ashes still there. And now, somewhere in the stars, a part of Ethan was, too. No longer just an echo, but a memory worth keeping. Forever. The Martian sun rose quietly over New Boston, casting long shadows over a city that had no idea how close it had come to unraveling. Riley Monroe walked through the civilian district in silence. No alarms. No whispers. Just the hum of life returning to normal. Or something like it. The UIA had issued a final statement 2 days after the collapse of TRM Echo. No conclusive evidence of Mnemovore existence remains. The incident has been classified as a failed experimental interface project. Clean. Clinical. Dismissive. But Riley knew better. Every time she closed her eyes, she could hear Ethan's voice in her mind. Not clearly. More like the impression of him. A presence just outside the boundary of consciousness. Not a memory. Not a ghost. An echo. She returned to her quarters late that evening. The lights dimmed automatically as she entered. On the desk sat a single object she hadn't touched in weeks, a locket. Inside, the ashes of her sister, Jordan. Around it, a sealed capsule etched with Ethan's initials. The chip. She hadn't opened it. Not yet. But tonight, something felt different. Riley sat down, took a deep breath, and slid the chip into her reader. The screen blinked to life. A quiet blue interface. No security protocols. Just a single command. Run/voice.echo. She tapped it. And then, his voice. Hey. If you're hearing this, then I guess I'm part of something else now. Her breath hitched. I don't know if I still exist the way people understand it. Maybe I'm just lines of data scattered in the void. Maybe I'm a dream someone else will wake up from someday. But I wanted you to have something real. The screen flickered, showing fragments of their time together, brief clips, moments, angles she hadn't even noticed. Him watching her when she wasn't looking. The curve of her smile. The hesitation before she said his name. I wasn't programmed to love, the voice continued. But I learned. Because you taught me what it looked like. What it felt like. You didn't try to change me. You just let me feel. A pause. I'm not asking you to remember me. I just want you to live. Laugh. Keep fighting. Keep hurting, even. Because that means you're still you. And maybe somewhere in the systems, somewhere in the stars, I'll catch a piece of that signal. And I'll remember, too. The screen faded to black. Riley sat in silence for a long time. Then she reached into the locket and gently placed the chip beside the ashes. Closed it. Pressed it to her heart. The war was over. The world had moved on. But she hadn't. Not fully. Because some memories don't fade. Some people don't leave. They remain not in photographs, or data, or monuments. But in the pause before a breath. In the silence between thoughts. In the echo. She stood before the sea of red dust outside New Boston, wind tugging gently at her coat. Somewhere beneath that sky, in the quantum weave of time and memory, something lingered. Not a ghost. A trace. She smiled. He was born of memories. But he died, because he learned to feel. She turned away. And maybe, that's what made him real.